Oh, Scott, what are you laughing about this wonderful, happy day
Oh no,
here?
you're just cracking jokes about different personal stuff, and
Yes,
so
so today's April 22nd, 2 days after 420.
2 days after 420, and I got and I'm just back from my trip to New York.
Exactly, where there's 420 everywhere. Hello, folks. So this is Political Matrix News. I'm Greg Fink, joined here today by Scott Miller, my wonderful partner in crime, and he just got back from New York City in one piece.
Now, and look, it is ironic, or not necessarily ironic. I mean, that is such an overused term, but it
It
is
is.
certainly interesting that that you coincidental that you bring up 420 when one of the biggest issues, or I shouldn't say issue, surprising things for me since the last time I showed up in New York. Last time I was in New York, the World Trade Center was standing.
Oh,
So
wow.
it's
It's
been a
been a
while.
ways. Yeah, it's been a while.
But walking around Times Square, I did not turn a corner in Times Square that I didn't smell someone smoking pot. I mean, the entirety of that place is just reeks of marijuana. It smelled like a reggae festival.
Really.
I mean, it is. Uh, it's like Amsterdam on steroids.
City
So
of freedom, man. City of freedom.
and it's just surprising that it is so deep in their tourist center. But
Right.
it is what it is. I'm not going to judge people, and frankly, it kind of worked out okay for me because I have some pretty significant back issues sometimes, and I had an issue while I was there and was able to just duck into a little CBD shop and get some of the cream that just fixes
CBD.
my back like a magic wand.
So you went to a CBD shop and there's a pot store right next to it.
Right. Well, actually, the truth of the matter is, all of those Times Squares ones are just CBD places.
Oh, really?
Because
Okay.
because if it was an actual pot store, you'd have that. Even New York, I believe, requires licenses for that.
Yeah, it's not like LA where you go down to Compton or downtown LA and they got the marijuana stores everywhere.
Yeah, no.
Or Colorado. But it has been one interesting week since we've talked last. So the
Oh
Pope
my
has
God.
passed away, and on Easter. So for all of our friends out there in the
Our
world,
Catholic friends, yeah.
Catholic friends and everything else, our prayers are with you guys. And I mean, the Pope passed away, and that's tragic. He's been sick for a long time, so I don't think it's too much of a surprise to anybody. I think the timing
No.
of it is very surprising. That is more or less right after Easter passed.
Yeah.
Everything is pretty much in the early morning or morning hours the day after Easter.
Yeah.
So our prayers are
No.
definitely going out to everybody here in the Catholic community and everything. They look for the new Pope. I mean, and the whole process of looking for a new Pope is very political. And so
It is. Yeah, that it is famously political.
it's going to be very interesting to see. I don't even know who's on second base. Who is next up?
Lord, that's an internal thing within the Vatican. I mean, there are people within there, within the cardinals that have their idea. I'm pretty sure this pope was the first Jesuit.
Yeah, he
So
was
it'll be
from
interesting to see
Argentina.
if that winds up happening again, or if they just go an entirely different direction.
Right. Well, how do you think Trump is doing this week? Yeah, so I mean, I'm becoming.
No. I want to talk about our SecDef because Pete Higgs, when you and I were talking a couple of days ago, the rumors are flying everywhere.
He's gone.
Yeah, the rumors everywhere. People are calling me, telling me, "Oh, no, I got an inside guy at the Pentagon. They're just they're getting ready to kick him out right now."
You got 3 or 4 Republican congressmen who are actually out there saying it publicly, thinking they have a lot of people behind them, backing them up. And when they look behind it, they're like, where they at?
Yeah, that's one of my favorite things. When you call a leader with no followers, guy taking a walk, and there's a whole bunch of Republicans out there taking a walk.
Or another saying is that they're so far behind you, they couldn't even see you.
Yeah, right.
And that's exactly where the rest of the party is with these guys.
But that's kind of that was the same story in Trump won. Trump term one. They were just even some Republicans were just sitting there long enough waiting so they could hop out behind a tree and say, "Oh no, I've been against him the whole time." No, you haven't.
Yeah.
You were trying to look like you were one of the cool kids, but you are not.
Right.
And we know that.
Yeah, I mean, it's a big sabotage from within attempt from the media placing people or placing stories that might or might not exist. Same way like Democrats do with voters. It's not a Democrat voting. A lot of voters don't exist. Or do they?
Who knows?
We actually we have
data that suggests they don't.
Exactly.
But the thing is, it just I just keep thinking back over the years and the years and the years when when people were trying to I remember back in the first Iraq war. Now I want to back up and say that I don't think we should have ever gone into Iraq either time.
Well, I disagree.
Well, there was maybe an argument for the first Gulf War. There was no argument for the second Gulf War because they didn't have a damn thing to do with terrorism. You could have maybe made an argument for going straight to Afghanistan. Honestly, it feels like the Bush administration just knew they could go in there and kick Saddam's butt again, and it would look like an easy win. Is what it felt like.
And that part was an easy win. It's the part after that kind of got screwed up.
Yeah, but I mean, what have we gained by getting Saddam Hussein out of Iraq?
Well, we gained a guy who's actually harboring them and paying them and bribing them to attack our people and to go after our Americans and go after
Iraq. No, Iraq? You're thinking of Iran.
No, I think about Iraq. Iraq was doing Saddam Hussein was doing that as well. He was doing that also. He had chemical weapons. He had biological weapons. He had that as well. I was in the military there. I knew people who found weapons of mass destruction. People like to say WMDs were only nuclear. They weren't only nuclear. WMDs can also be biological and chemical, and he had both. He was killing the Kurds with both of them.
Biological and chemical.
Exactly, and he was killing the Kurds with both of them. He needed to be taken out. Period.
But that's not our business.
It is our business.
We
had to have stability in the area in order for it to stay stable.
No, we did not. Yes. We did not.
I respectfully disagree with you.
It's not our job. We're not the world's policemen.
No, we're not the world's policemen. But when it comes to Middle East Muslim terrorism and everything else, he's helping to harbor terrorists. And he's helping Al Qaeda. He's helping the Taliban. And he's harboring them and paying them different prices for, basically attacking Americans or trying to, basically place targets on different American sites. Now, it never happened because we got a hold of them first. It might be a coincidence that never happened. Now, I see you smiling because you go, it never happened because it wasn't real. It wasn't true. It was a fallacy. It was a talking point just to go ahead and justify the war. But it was a very good justification.
No, it's not. I would have rather gone after Iran than Iraq. You could justify going after Iran.
We should have done that too. We should have done both.
Could you come up with a reason could you come up with a reason to justify attacking Iraq? Sure, you can. You can come up with small things. The thing is he the biggest problem? He wasn't even close. He wasn't in the top 10 of big problems.
He's the axis of evil.
Oh, whatever. It's a bunch of shit.
Anyway, the reality here is that, we had the military with Schwarzkopf back under the first Bush to take Iran and Iraq both out. We should have just done that.
Yeah, we should. We should have done.
And then we wouldn't have been worried about any of the stuff that we have going on right now. That Iran have nuclear capabilities, Iran backing Hamas, Iran backing Hezbollah, and then the whole Gaza thing wouldn't even have happened in the way it's happening now. But exactly. You know what? W. Bush was a wuss, and he chickened out, and Colin Powell did not have the resolve to carry it through.
Right. But the whole reason, before you derail me, the whole reason I was bringing that up is because I remember the first Gulf War, the media was telling us about how Saddam Hussein had the 7th largest standing army in the world, and this was going to be our next Vietnam. And I'm like, well, no, he didn't. He may have had the biggest standing army in the world, but that doesn't mean they were committed to fighting for him.
That's true.
They were happy. They were more than happy to surrender.
That's true. But it did become our next Vietnam because of Afghanistan, because we got dragged into that. Which we didn't
get dragged into Afghanistan. That was the next thing. They were just the next target.
You're right. We actually galloped to Afghanistan. We said, "Hey, you guys want to fight next? Come on, let's go. Let's go."
Yeah. Which, like I said, and the reason that we went to them was because they actually did have bin Laden, for a time. So that there was good justification to follow bin Laden and his whole crew up through there. And frankly, we could have gone to it. We could have, if bin Laden's guys were in Iraq, we could have gone after Iraq without going after the entire country of Iraq, because what would Saddam have done?
Exactly.
We go in there and find out where he is, bring in a strike force, and just pound him into submission. Send in a ground force and say, Saddam, remember what happened last time? You need to stay your butt back in Baghdad.
I wonder how many people watching this even remember that Bin Laden was educated at Yale.
I know, right?
We educated him. We trained him. He was a CIA operative in the late 90s. We taught him how to do everything he did to us.
Exactly.
Nobody remembers that.
Which is part of the reason why I want to say, and look, I'm just as proud of our intelligence services as I am our military, because they're soldiers too. But we give them too much deference. We give them too little supervision, and I'm not even going to blame them for what they wind up doing with that, because anytime that you don't put these guys back in their place and reset their parameters, I don't care whether they're intelligence services or whomever, they will, the military even has a word for it. What's the word, Greg? Mission creep, right?
Yeah.
It just keeps going and going and going.
Just keeps going and going and going.
And just because you can do something doesn't mean that you should do it. But back to my original point, which is that the world just continues to try to make us believe that all of these countries in the world are nipping at the heels of our military, and it's just never been true. No. It hasn't been true since World War II.
No, we are by far the biggest superpower out there.
Yeah, there's no one who's going to jump on us and invade us. Who's going to surprise attack, and somehow we're going to be crippled again. No, those days are over.
Yeah, people say that China is a threat militarily. I just laugh hysterically about that.
Now,
maybe China, maybe if we went to China and fought in their jungles, they might have an advantage to a degree, but I don't think any other way now.
Well, China has, like we've been saying since this whole tariff thing started, China has far deeper problems than, frankly, even American tariffs.
Exactly. Their economy is crumbling.
Their economy is crumbling. They call it byland or something like that, where, on one hand, they have this demographic, they're top-heavy demographically, where 40% of the country is over the age of 64.
Right.
40%.
I think that people do not understand that is the entire idea with the tariffs. It's to cripple China's economy. It's going to be tough, and there's going to be some pain in it. There's going to be some prices that might go up, and they're going to go down again. They're going to go up, and they'll go down again. Right now, gas is dropping like a rock.
All I know is that if COVID wasn't a sufficient, wake up call, we have to get our supply chain out of China, because you remember, in the height of COVID, what did China do? It says, oh, well, all these medical supplies that we're manufacturing here, I know we're supposed to send them to America because they belong to American companies, but we're keeping them. And what we're going to do? Go in there and send the military in there to go confiscate it from China?
Exactly. I mean, right now, we have a Rasmussen poll, which is 48% suspect that China deliberately sent COVID to America as biological warfare.
Well, what I believe,
I always
believe in incompetence over maliciousness. I mean, not that there aren't malicious people over there, but there are way more incompetent people than there are malicious people. And frankly, my opinion of what happened in China was it was a foreseeable accident. They were sitting there playing in a lab that didn't have the right protection protocols, didn't just kind of cut corners right and left, and we're sitting there throwing money at. We are throwing money at.
We funded it.
We funded
Fauci.
That's why I don't think that it was a Chinese thing. Them sending them to us. I think it was literally that they had incompetent people, and they didn't follow the protocols.
Yeah.
In China, they work, what was it? It was 7 days a week.
Right. Yeah.
9 hours, 9 or 10 hours. I forget. It's a lot. I mean, it's like 60-hour weeks or 60 or 70-hour weeks every week. Well, when you work 60 and 70-hour weeks, you get tired. You start losing concentration. You start losing focus. You tell that to Chinese companies, and Chinese companies are just like, they're just like, screw you, work hard.
Well, I think Dr. Fauci is part of the whole James Comey regime, and they're all basically in it to stick everything to Trump possible. And I don't think it's beyond them. Not to say it's incompetence. I know. Yeah. Okay. Well, maybe it just was an incompetent idea, a competent mistake that went really, really freaking bad.
Even those guys, I don't think are
Really
stupid enough
bad.
to do that, because I mean, while there's no agenda I would put past them, she is smart enough to know that how a how a virus behaves in the wild is nothing like what it is when you have it in a controlled environment.
Right.
And he would know that he could just as easily wipe out the entire world as create a pandemic.
Yeah. And I mean, it did a wonder. I mean, it did a wonder to our economy. It would do a wonder to reshelving the entire way we look at everything, period. And people are realizing now that, I mean, like you said, gross incompetence, deliberate, deliberate release. I mean, 6 one way, half dozen the other, especially whenever you have 48%. I mean, it's almost just like half and half. So, I mean,
well, think about it like this, Greg. Who is going to deliberately release it? I mean, anyone that has access to it knows what it is. They're like, oh, crap, that may kill my family if I let this thing go, because there's no way to keep it from crossing national borders. But the travel restrictions were more about slowing the progress and preventing it from ever happening.
right.
Because, I mean, there are people, there are animals, there's birds, there's all sorts of things that do not respect these borders, and they cross, and you don't know when it's happened.
That's true. That's very true.
So,
well, one thing is not crossing are immigrants anymore. The border is almost shut down. To dovetail into that real quick, the border. I mean, people are talking about deportations, and I think you said this earlier today, was that the internal deportations of Trump are much higher than the other presidents, where the external deportations are much lower because nobody's crossing. The other presidents were deporting them once they cross the border. Right now, we get like 20 or 30 a week.
Well, on top of that, the Democrats are starting to realize that, I mean, they don't like it, but they're starting to acknowledge that this whole immigration thing was a very, very bad move on their part.
Yes, it was.
And the more the polling is starting to come back from them going down and taking their trip down to El Salvador and checking on the health and welfare of this guy. And while there are a lot of Democrats that are concerned about him going out, there are very few people that think that this guy shouldn't be exactly where he is.
Right. I mean, I don't really know that many people who are all that sympathetic with the guy. And I'm down here in Central Florida, and I mean it's yeah. The polls say one thing. I mean, there are the ways that the immigration thing is being handled. I would like to be done differently. I would like to address that they need to go to the jails and the prisons immediately and start there, because we're paying for those guys. Our taxpayers are paying their 3 hots in the cot, their internet and their cable, their law degrees and their education. They need to be out first. I mean, I congratulate them for going after all the farmers and the immigrants, all the random people out there. That's wonderful. But let's get the people who are draining our immediate dollars out first.
Exactly. They are a daily expense for us, and they have well-documented affiliations with these gangs.
They're documented. They got fingerprints. You know who they are. There's no question. They've been convicted. And to get the violent guys out of here, the ones who are of all the violent crimes, everything, felonies or whatever, it's an easy catch. You drive up, you pat them in a paddy wagon, you drive them down, you put them on an airplane, and they're gone. And now, how come they haven't done it? Because that'll take about 1.5 years to do all the correctional facilities throughout the whole nation. If they just did that, it'd be a good PR move, first of all. Be very good on the PR. Secondly, all the other people who you're getting out there randomly will be gone already. They'll be self-supported by then.
Well, once they see everyone leaving, they'll figure out a way to get the hell out.
Once they see everybody leaving the jails and going down south who've already been convicted, nobody will have any problem with whatsoever, except for the extreme ACLU. That's just, I wish Trump would do that, but just do it in that order, because he did actually say that when he was running for office. That was how they're going to do it. But Tom Homan just said, let's just do everybody. Let's just do the whole crowd. Well, we can do it all. But I mean, it's a big bear
it's
to
funny.
tackle.
It's funny that they call Obama the deporter in chief, when the fact is the deporter in chief is Tom Homan.
It was with Obama.
I mean, we worked under Obama, but I'm just saying that he is the title holder.
Yeah.
He's the one with.
But he is also given the medal from Obama for doing that.
Yes.
He was actually rewarded a medal from Obama for being the best border chief czar for him. And he didn't switch parties. He's still a Democrat, by the way.
Who?
Tom Homan.
Oh, well, yeah. Well,
so, I mean, he's picking up where he left off. He's doing the same work now that he did for Obama, and he's doing a good job of it now. You know, he's tackling a very big piece all at one time. I mean, I think doing a little more measures in a categorically for the PR reasons alone, which is a lot of political capital, by the way, you know, would be a lot better just to go after the convicted people first. And then by that time, everybody else is going to self-support or get the hell out anyway.
Well, honestly, I think the entire thing would have so much inertia that you could literally deport anyone and they'd never stop.
Exactly. And so, I mean, you won't have anybody left to deport. It's the whole point. I mean, they'll be gone.
Yeah, I agree.
So, but yeah, so I mean, the numbers are down. I mean, hardly. You got 10,000 Mexican troops on one side, 10,000 American troops on the other side, and nobody's crossing anywhere. It's great.
It's like 95%. Oh, and you remember how the Democrats said it'd be impossible to do without Congress, acting?
Who needs Congress? You got the military on both sides.
Well, it's not even that. What the point that it drives home is that we already had all the laws in place that we needed. That's like, every time there's some kind of gun instance, it's, we need to pass another law. No, you don't need to pass another law. You just need to enforce the ones you got.
The reality is that Mexico enjoys this also because, Mexico, most of these weren't Mexicans. There were people coming up through Mexico. There are people from Africa and Asia and in Europe and South America. I mean, all the different areas and they're coming through the Panama Canal. They're all coming up through Nicaragua and Guatemala and that whole area through Mexico. And so, I mean, Mexico is enjoying this as well because, I mean, they don't have all the crime, all the human trafficking coming through their country also. And it's also bolstering their credibility greatly as far as being a country that was willing to partner with America to make everybody safe, which is a good thing. Where Canada's not doing that. Mexico is, but Canada isn't, which is kind of bizarre.
What gets me is, and maybe this will give Mexico an opportunity to start evolving. If we can really kind of keep this in place for at least the rest of the Trump term, and maybe at least one other presidential 8-year term away, we keep this for 12 years. The cartels are going to be dramatically underfunded because if their cash flow is right now almost at a standstill. We dropped border traffic by 95%. Well, much of that border traffic was them shipping shipping drugs into the country. So so you start dropping that and taking away their cash flow. It takes away their ability to influence and basically control the Mexican government. And I'll tell you, one of the other things, the best opportunity Mexico has, and frankly a lot of Latin America and South Africa has, is China is threatening countries that have products made with their rare earth metals not to ship those to the United States. Right now, is an opportunity to start developing those rare earth mines in all of South America and all of South Africa, and frankly in a lot of Mexico. They want to get rich. They want to build a massive economy. Those rare earth metals are going to be their ticket if they would just decide to focus on that. Frankly, if the cartels would take the billions of dollars that they have and use it to go legit, it's not like they're ever going to get served jail time anyway. At least they can we can get some kind of benefit out of the destruction they've wrought on America.
Exactly. Well, it does look like as soon as we're talking about Mexico working with America, it looks like a new article just popped up about the Mexican president facing off with Trump, having some problems with the some economic policies and everything. And she thinks that some of the commercials that we've been showing are a little bit racist against immigrants from Mexico. And so,
so what?
Well,
I mean, and look,
I don't think they're doing that on purpose at all. I don't think anybody's trying to be a racist in the ads or anything like that. I mean, we are still a sensitive society.
yeah, uh, the least impactful thing to me, the least, impactful charge, allegation or whatever that anyone makes to me is racism. Followed closely by sexism, but racism is it because
racism is very big.
because well, they use that allegation just as a general. This is what we do. I mean, it's their standard procedure. Anytime they want to go after someone, they just make a vague allegation of racism, and the nice people in America, are taken aback for a second. Say, "Whoa, is that what's going on?" Because we're not down with that, and so it's a great way to put a pause on things for them.
Yes.
But it's just meaningless to me anymore. When people start crying racism, I mean, they might as well be, I don't know. I can't think of anything equally trivial than racism.
Because I mean, the reality is that none of us. I speak for everybody I know. We all get along with everybody very well. And
it is the ultimate boy crying wolf.
Exactly. I mean, this whole bullshit here, like, oh, if you disagree with me on a car, you're a racist, or you disagree with me on this. I said, no. Racist means a lot more than just disagreeing with somebody. I mean, come on, guys, grow up and figure out what your words actually mean. I mean, figure out some definitions to some of these words. I actually read a little bit of the history here about how America has came through all the racism that we did come through, and we are doing very good now. I think this country is very colorblind. I do think that the whole trans movement is a little bit of where we see some discrimination. I actually brought it up to some people today at the University of Florida about starting a trans sports team. They should have their own team instead of competing against women or men. They should have their own department.
But you know what the problem with that's going to be? One, they want to be considered just like everyone else. So that's going to be their narrative.
They're not going to get the funding.
But the other side of it is that would mean that trans men would have to compete with trans women, and the trans women would kick their tails.
Maybe.
Because the trans women are really men, and the trans men know it.
Yeah, but that's up to them and their sport, okay? That's up to their referees.
I'm fine with them doing it. I think it would be a wonderful idea.
Great solution.
It is a great solution.
They should compete against each other, and and they'll come out of the woodwork. I mean, they'll start multiplying, and it'll be wonderful for their whole group. It'll be an interesting outfit change, interesting uniforms. Yeah, but it's one way to keep them happy on their side, and get rid of all this other crap here. Because I mean, this whole idea here. I mean, people down here in Florida are not down with the whole men and women's sports thing at all.
Well, it's Title IX was specifically written because women were getting shortchanged in the entire educational system.
Yeah,
and so to go 58 years later, and and just tear the whole thing down just because for one tiny little group, versus the half of the population being women. Is just ridiculous. So if we got to make an accommodation, we've got to make an accommodation. Let's make an accommodation, but don't burn down the existing system just so you can accommodate one fraction of a percentage of the country.
Right. They found a memo today, I guess, or this last week, that Joe Biden was actually against men and women's sports, but he was confused in his old age, and they got him confused on what he was saying. But he actually did write it down that he was very supportive of keeping the sports the way it has been forever, but he got confused in his statements.
I think it's funny, but I don't think it's what happened. What I think what happened was that there was more money making, there was more fundraising opportunities, there was more opportunities to cast the opposition as evil people. Yeah. By adopting that position, and that's exactly what they did, and that is their primary motivation. The reason that the trans movement has so much traction, and I hate to break it to the heart, break the hearts of the trans people, the Democrats do not support you. They see you as an effective weapon, and that's it. And the minute you stop being an effective weapon, they will abandon you just like they did the black community.
Cha-ching, cha-ching, cha-ching.
Because there's way more money for them in taking payoffs from manufacturers than there is in in supporting the black community. Kamala Harris had 80 billionaires supporting her. Donald Trump had 26. Yet the entire narrative that you hear is, Trump is setting up the system for his billionaire buddies. Well, Trump doesn't have nearly as many billionaire buddies as Hakeem Jeffries does.
No, he doesn't. And I mean, the Democrats are loaded to bear with all the money, everything else. And I mean, they're raising money like hand over fist. I mean, through Act Blue and everything. And they're just, I mean, they're killing it with his, AOC raise, I think, $10 million in the last 2 months. I mean, and I think she, I guess, is the front runner for the Democratic Party for president.
Oh, please,
I
I hope so.
It's going to be such a wonderful show on a daily basis, just watching her speak about all the things that she would like to do that she can never do, that she can never do, she can never do, and not even American to do at all. And I mean, it's going to be so pleasant to watch the Democrat Party
charming,
pick
but
her.
She is stupid as a post.
To watch the Democrat Party pick her.
I can't wait.
Destroy the party.
I am
literally destroy it.
In fact, I may be more. I was more enthusiastic about Kamala, but being the nominee. But boy, AOC is a close second.
Now, I mean, as far as my personal favorite Democrat, I'm a Gavin Newsom supporter as far as Democrats go, or Shapiro, governor. One of the governors.
All right, you and I are talking about two different things. You're talking about people that you're talking about Democrat moderates. Moderate Democrats, that might be mildly tolerable. What I'm talking about are people that it's going to be get me a box of popcorn to sit there and eat while I watch them say stupid things.
Well, I mean,
and lose.
Exactly. I guess you were having to Shapiro's house a couple weeks ago, right? Somebody burned his house down.
It wasn't his house. It was the governor's mansion.
Yeah.
And they didn't burn it down, but there was significant fire damage.
I saw the damage. It's pretty bad.
Yeah, well, I mean, they only showed you pictures of the places that were damaged.
The pictures that were damaged, I really don't care about.
Right. So what I'm saying is the place is big. So
it is big.
But and look, I don't care if he burned a 3-foot square in one hall closet. It's still a bad thing to do.
Yeah, but they quit doing that. I mean, I saw it's on both sides of the party. Both groups need to just calm down and chill out a little bit. I mean, today, we had Earth Day today. And only 38% of the people in this country, according to Rasmussen, even cares about Earth Day anymore. I mean, and nobody gives a crap about Earth Day right now. But for some reason, and it's an important thing to care about on a regular basis. But I mean, to have it as a ritual and your religion, everything else. I mean, it's a good thing to care about the Earth and to be good stewards.
It's a good thing to care about the Earth, but that's not Earth Day has nothing to do with caring about the Earth.
Earth Day has nothing to do. It's a communistic plot and everything else.
It's not a communistic plot. It's a fundraising plot.
Okay, fundraising plot. Yes. Yeah.
You see that's what I hate when people throw this communist stuff out there.
They used to be broke.
Or fascist stuff.
Well, that's because they were broke back then. They weren't raising no money, and so that was we called it fascist or communist because they're broke old people who are just wanting to protect the planet. Now they're rich old people.
No, they call it communism and fascism because they lack the intellectual capacity to actually, describe things as they are. So they just come up with the most pejorative thing they can come up that they can figure.
No, it's because back then the reason why I had the intelligence level to understand why I called it communist because it's more or less the government control of all your resources, government control of everything you're doing, from environmental side to the how you live to what you eat and everything else, and so basically the whole idea is inspired by people from the Russia, that group and everything else who are trying to intimidate the American people and just trying to do mind control on them.
That's not how Russia works, though.
Russia,
that's not how the Soviet Union worked. The Soviet Union adopted.
That's our Jerry Falwell conspiracy. Okay, I'm sorry.
The Soviet Union controlled the means of production. Okay, and they were socialists. Trying to become communists. The German Nazi Party was socialist, and they didn't control the means of production. They just had draconian rules about every single thing you could do. That's what fascism is.
Yeah, okay.
Which sounds remarkably like what they're trying to put over here on the Democrat side.
Yeah, but they keep calling Republicans fascists.
Only because it sounds like it's damaging, but they've said it so often, people are kind of tired of hearing it at
Yeah,
this point.
they are tired of hearing it. But today I saw a bunch of signs that we're going to throw up here about these here old white liberals in Gainesville who just hate everybody but America. They hate America. They love Iran. They said, please save Iran, save China, kill NATO, save Russia. I was like,
well, I don't want to kill NATO, but I wouldn't mind getting out of it.
well, we are trying to get out of the UN. We haven't done that yet. I think NATO is actually a pretty good thing to be in. Probably.
I don't know. I have mixed feelings about it. The UN is absolutely nothing but a dang
The UN's
corrupt.
horrible. Yeah.
Yeah, it is a hot den of corruption, and flat out,
Yeah.
there is nothing honest about the UN. Every program that they come up with, even their food programs, the amount of food more than half of the food has to go to whoever the warlord in the area is. That they're trying to pacify, so that they can A, feed their troops, and then B, sell off the excess, to line their pockets.
Right.
And the UN's not doing that because of the cost of doing business. They're doing that because those guys are their buddies. That's how you wind up with people like Iran, as on the Council on Human Rights.
Yeah, we also found out, speaking about Iran and Sharia law and those kind of countries, there is a program we started here in Central Florida called Project Orange, and it's in Sanford, Florida, and it's a Muslim community. It's going to be starting itself up, and they're trying to insert Sharia law in Sanford, Florida.
Well, here's my opinion on that. That they are perfectly entitled to post recommendations for how you should behave in a community, but the minute they try to make to make those things have the force of law, they have crossed the line.
Exactly. I just was watching a study out of England. I had no idea England was so accepting of the Muslim community and everything else, where they have several different mosques. They actually have Sharia law in England, different parts of England. I did not know that. And if America ever goes that direction, I'm sure there's actually parts of America that do have that. I'm just not aware of because I'm ignorant toward that area. But if they have that in Florida, it's going to be, Katie bar the door. It's going to be.
I would love to go
wreck.
to England. I would love to go to England and help those people, extricate themselves from this mess, because I'm not entirely sure that their elections are. Look, if we have to worry about our elections, I guarantee you got to worry about English elections.
Yeah, they have
100%.
They have 17 mayors that are Muslim in England.
See, that's like a couple of years ago, we had a candidate running for a state representative seat here in Northwest Florida, in the most conservative district in the state, and she was a Russian national. I think she might have gotten her citizenship or something like that, but she still had a thick Russian accent. And the whole time I said, there is no way on God's green earth that Santa Rosa County is going to elect a Russian to be a state representative. And I was right. I don't believe English people, if you fairly counted the votes, would either.
No, I don't think so. But it's very interesting how they're trying to, encroach into the American population and American politics that way, and to insert Sharia law. I don't think how Sharia law would ever work in Florida at all. It shouldn't work in Florida, America.
It won't work with the force of law.
No. Now if everybody leaves them alone.
No. All it's going to take is one random, college tourist driving through the community and getting arrested for some stupid, for like some girl, driving through the community in a tank top and getting arrested. Which would under Sharia law, that would happen.
It would, yeah.
They would have to arrest a college student, anyone in that. As soon as they do that, the whole thing's over.
Exactly.
Right there. Boom. So, welcome to America. We got courts that override your idiotic Sharia law court.
Exactly. So
now, they could make it a glorified HOA, but that's it.
Yeah. So we had a shooting here at the Florida State campus last week where 2 people died and 6 got injured. And that was a tragic thing. We're not celebrating anything The kid broke the law, period. He needs to be punished. However, there's a bill in Congress or in the state house that Michelle Salzman has to lower the age back to 18 years old to buy a gun. And it looks like it's running into a slight trouble right now because of that. And so some of the
So
Republican.
let's hope not, because that bill would have absolutely no effect on. You see, that's the
Exactly.
infuriating thing to me.
You're right.
This sort of thing happens, and they propose laws that have no bearing whatsoever on the event that is sparking the whole thing.
Yeah, because
this kid was the child, and this is why you're not seeing a lot of this in the media. He was the child of a Florida sheriff, a resource officer who worked in the schools, and he used her gun. So exactly how is restricting the age of the legal age of possession,
have nothing to do with
anything
it.
to do? What one has nothing to do with it. Honestly, you want to improve the situation? Get rid of all the damn safe zones.
Exactly. Rules. I guess the Senate Rules Chairwoman Kathleen Pasadoma from Naples, which is actually where Byron Donalds is from. She's the chairman of that committee in the Senate, and she will not take up the bill. So she's not going to allow the Senate to see it. So that way, it's not going to get signed.
Yeah, we had trouble with that with the initial Castle Doctrine and Stand Your Ground. There was just some random dude down there that happened to be in the right place on the committee that just wouldn't bring it up.
Yeah,
and the reason she won't bring it up is because she knows it'll pass.
Exactly, and she's a Republican and she's a chairwoman. So I have no idea what her problem is.
Well, Republicans aren't monolithic. Democrats aren't monolithic.
That's very true. She's from the same area where Byron Donalds, who supports it, is from, and he's running for governor. So hopefully he'll talk to her, shake her loose or something.
Hopefully he can. But like I said, it ain't monolithic. I can't remember who the guy was. He was down in Miami. I think it was Manny. What's his face? Manny Rivera, I think.
Yeah.
I think it was him, and I could be definitely wrong on that. So don't quote me on that. But he was completely buying in on we're so steeped in guns. If you let everyone have guns, we'll have problems. Well, guess what, Manny? Everyone has guns, and everyone has the right to have guns in Florida right now. You don't even need a concealed carry permit. You can go get one, put a gun in your pocket, and consider yourself safe. And so far, that's been the law for a while. And we've seen absolutely no uptick in gun violence.
And granted, Rick Scott and that whole crew, they didn't raise the age up to 21. But, I thought there was an amendment, though, that got it passed back down to 18. That passed. Did the amendment not, get caught up by the legislature or something? Or
it wouldn't be an amendment.
There was a constitutional amendment, I thought, that's lower the age of the gun rights.
I don't think that passed. Because if it did, they wouldn't even be talking about it now.
Yeah, that's weird.
But yeah, it's not the kind of thing that I don't know. Like I said, my cousin is the one that passed most of the gun legislation in Florida. He's the one who's the sponsor for the Castle Doctrine and Stand Your Ground, and then a lot of subsequent legislation in there that kept, there for a while, we had a situation where if businesses could post a sign at their position at the entrance that said you can't come onto our property carrying a gun, and if you did, if they found out about it, then you get prosecuted for felony trespassing with a firearm. And Greg passed a statute that said if you are legally entitled to have one, that they can't stop you from bringing it onto the property.
Exactly.
Now they can tell you to leave, and they can't trespass you from the property, but the gun, they can't prosecute you for any gun related offenses, which is the way it ought to be.
Yeah.
We can't have people just arbitrarily deciding that that their rights supersede everyone else's rights.
It looks like it continually passes in the House and continually fails in the Senate. So the Senate blocked the proposal yesterday. So it's not going to come up at all. It's another knee-jerk reaction by a lot of reactionary people to something that is not going to stop exactly what happened, and it's just ridiculous. We have a state here where this legislature is not paying attention to what really needs to be done to get things fixed. Now, granted, Perez is going after the governor for all kinds of improprieties or alleged improprieties of the
Alleged
governor
improprieties.
and his wife's charity and everything else. And that's great that they're trying to hold him accountable and everything. That's wonderful.
If true, I mean,
Yeah, it's true. Yeah.
and look, as I've said repeatedly over the years, I love DeSantis's issues. I hate the way that he implements them, but
Yeah.
I don't want anything to happen to him that's contrived or fake. And we've seen plenty of that in Florida before.
Yeah, we're seeing everything from fake elections to fake votes. We actually had a city council, and I was going to bring this up to you earlier today. The city of Alachua, which is a very small city in Central Florida. It's in Alachua County where Gainesville is, and is historically very, very Trumpian, very Republican, very right wing, and it's a nonpartisan race for the mayor. But this time, they had a whole bunch of people just come in somehow and overturn the Republicans and made the Democrat won by 21 votes, and 10 of the voters were not even citizens of the city that still voted.
That sounds like a litigation challenge to me.
Yeah, some friends of ours were actually at the meeting saying it was definitely on prima facie evidence that we have some very illegal votes going on, and it needs to be an investigation. And they're asking for the FDLE to do it immediately and to see where these voters are coming from. I mean, we have a lot of them coming from Tampa.
When you're finding people who voted that are a number of people who voted that are clearly illegal votes, since you can't identify which vote they are, and the number of people that you find exceeds the margin of victory.
Right.
That is the definition of redo the election.
Yeah, here's the cool thing. We have a new numbers of because I know we had talked about Alachua County votes before a few months ago. And for those who aren't paying attention, it's probably like, back in March. So one of those episodes back in March, February. And basically where Alachua County had found 10,000 extra voters. And so we had like 174,000 voters now, Alachua County. Now it's back down. Now we have lost them again. We have lost 2 or 3,000 of them again. And we're back down to 171,000 or 172,000 and a little bit of change. And so what seems to happen is that these voters come in, they vote, and then they leave. So they're like hit and run voters. I mean, they come, they establish some sort of residency, or they don't, or they have a big building. In fact, one of the buildings that we're finding out that they were using as their address, I went by there today. You can't get in the building. There's still construction on the bottom 2 floors. There's nobody living in the building. There's no way to live in the building. But they're all using it as the address. They're using this one suite here, this other suite here, this other suite there. And they're using this building, which is right off campus. It's still under construction. But they haven't had any leasers lease out, how these big high rises are, where the residential is on the top, the commercials like the bottom 2 floors.
Yeah.
And so the commercials are the bottom 2 floors. The residential is sparsely up top. But you can't even really get into the building hardly.
It's mixed use, is what it is.
It's mixed use, but they're using the addresses of the bottom floor. They're using the floor that's up for lease, and that's the address they're using. They're not using the residential addresses.
Okay.
They're using the commercial address.
So they're using the commercial address. Oh my God!
In fact, two fraudsters in Tampa just got picked up for using 120 addresses per address.
Like 120 units.
Yeah, no, 120 people per house. And so basically they won an election by like just a few votes. It was a very close, like city council race or something like that in Tampa area. And basically what happened was these fraudsters had used vote by mail, and they had all the ballots sent to 2 addresses, 300 ballots, and they just split them up between 2 addresses. Because there is actually nothing in the statutes that say that limits how many voters can live in one house. Now, the logic has to come in. Logic and the critical thinking need to come in. But technically, you can actually have a shitload of people live in one house and vote. And if you actually believe they live there, and the voter people did, no big, no harm, no foul.
It's not that the voter people did believe it. It's just they didn't want to not believe it.
Exactly. They did not investigate it. And once it got investigated, those guys are in prison now. But they're also part of a big identity theft ring. which actually was tied to Alachua County. Whenever Alachua County had Kim Barton, supervisor of elections for Alachua County, organizing a voter drive at the Alachua County Jail back in 2020. And she did it again in 2022. And they arrested the people who were registering illegally, but they did not arrest the staff who encouraged them and taught them how to do it. So the state attorney needs to start looking at that again, open that case back up, and look at the staff who's actually educating them on how to vote illegally.
Well, what we need to do is get a public records request for all of that material that they use, all the things that they use for evidence for all of that stuff, and then do our own analysis.
Oh yeah.
And then once we have a compelling case, then we'll go and demand, go to the Attorney General's office and say, and demand that they do something.
So yeah, I mean, there's a lot of weird stuff going on out there. It's around Florida. It's been an interesting week.
Well, there's so many times that we see what is clear cut criminal behavior, just like this.
Yeah, done by elected officials.
And then people don't do anything about it because, oh, well, nothing's going to happen. I'm going to put a lot of effort into it. Nothing's going to happen. Well, that's what they count on.
Yes, they count on your laissez-faire attitude. And you're just going,
yeah, whatever.
Whatever.
Oh, it's so exhausting. The government's corrupt, and people are
dishonest.
Politicians, whatever.
What's for dinner?
Yeah, what's for dinner?
Yeah, where's my margarita? Where's my stogie at? I mean, and that's what people are worried about. They're worried about which I agree. I mean, hey, you and I like, the pleasures of the flesh, just like anybody else does. But the point is, you got to have this stuff found out. You have to have this stuff researched, and this corruption has got to stop.
Once it's done, once it's researched, they got to do something about it. You just can't let them stop. It's just like, I was just looking at a story up in Colorado. They arrested a bunch of people for damaging these Teslas. Well, now they're just going to let them go.
Oh, really? They're just going to let them go?
They're just going to let them go. I mean, they have video of these people for no reason whatsoever other than their hatred of Elon Musk, someone who actually doesn't even own the car, and they damage these people's property for no reason other than they hate some other guy that's not involved in this. And we're going to let them go because, First Amendment. Well, you know what? That's not First Amendment.
No, it's not. It's not the First Amendment at all. The First Amendment does not allow you to damage property or vandalize property. I mean, in fact, that's not even your mouth. Okay. No. I mean, it's nothing to do with speech whatsoever. It has to do with you using a object to hurt and to vandalize something and to violate something, period. There's nothing First Amendment about it at all.
Yeah, and you know what? If this is what they're doing, this is really going to infuriate me even more. If it's not already evident that I'm angry about this, what's really going to anger me more is to find out that the mechanism they're using to justify these people damaging Teslas is the same thing that they use to just slap on the wrist for kids that they bust, for graffiti.
But at the same time,
this isn't graffiti.
But at the same time, they incarcerate people for 400 days who just went up to the Capitol, who just wanted to watch people count the vote and watch their vote because they thought the election was stolen, because it was. I mean, we had 10 million people pop out of nowhere to vote, and 10 million people disappear the next election to vote. And so, I mean, those people knew that there's no way Joe Biden got more votes than Barack Obama or more votes than Hillary Clinton. There's no way in hell that he had that kind of a campaign, period, at all, to do that. And so, I mean, the campaign mechanism, as you and I both working in campaigns for years, know that was one of the worst ran campaigns in the history of campaigns. Joe Biden's campaign. He worked in a basement. He had 50 people show up. Nobody showed up.
Our friends who work in elections, who work in Democrat elections across the country, told us that they were rigging the whole thing to start with. They told us before the election started that they were going to do it.
There's no way to win it without rigging it. Instead of being too big to rig, it's small enough to rig. And so because without anybody looking, with the media not realizing what's going on, and basically, covering their tracks, not caring what's going on, and covering their tracks because they hated the orange man so badly.
Oh my God.
Because their hatred for him overran any kind of critical thinking whatsoever of logic or brain power. I mean, the whole reality here, I mean, and it's just sad, but I had a point, actually. I was trying to dovetail into this.
Now you're running into my problem.
Yes. I'm almost your age again. So, but you still got me beat by 1 year. And so, but I guess I got a lot more gray than you do. But I mean, the whole point here is that yeah, today Elon had a reason. He announced that he's stepping down from Doge, and that he's going back to Tesla. He's at the Tesla quarterly meeting and telling them that he's coming back to take over again, and he apologized for his leave of absence, and he's there to right the ship and get everything back on track and back going. And he's basically going to still be involved with Doge, but it looks like most of the people from Doge that are going to be running it now are from Microsoft and Apple and Airbnb. Still big players. I mean,
well, the bottom line is Elon wasn't the guy. Elon was never the guy. He wasn't the guy digging through the data and finding stuff. I mean, he's a smart guy, but he was the guy running the people who are actually finding all these results.
Yeah, and now they're on there. They're going to be going and going, and he's going to be done pretty much in 15 or 20 days. And so he'll be back at Tesla, making Tesla great again, and riding that ship. I mean, their stock is back up again today. And one thing he did say in his speech today was that he hopes the terrorists go away quickly because they're really affecting Tesla energy and a lot of the energy across the country. So that's where it is affecting that, and come to the kind of negotiate with Trump pretty quickly.
Let's hope so.
But well, yeah, I think that's it for tonight. You guys need to subscribe to us, like Scott.
Hey, yeah, you already like us. Just go ahead and click the button and make it official.
Yeah,
all right,
make it official. Subscribe to us.
I mean, just to show you just how erratic the algorithm is and how erratic the software is. 30 minutes ago, I looked at my personal Twitter page and I had 60 followers, and I was like, "What the hell do I have 60 followers? How'd that happen?" And then I refreshed something, and all of a sudden, then I had 500 followers again. Then I'm like, "Oh, okay, that's better." And now it varies between 60, 500, and 1,000.
Exactly.
So now I don't. know.
Our numbers vary up and down. We have no idea what the real numbers are. But what we do know
I'm just talking about my personal Twitter that I just use.
Okay.
My personal Twitter that I use to spread my own personal venom.
Hey, your own personal venom? Yes. How can they find that out? Scott Miller?
What is my Twitter? I don't know. I just use it for my personal entertainment. I haven't used it for for actually accomplishing anything.
Oh, I got
it. But it's what is mine? It's PMN Scott M.
There we go. PMN Scott M. PMN stands for Political Matrix News.
That is it.
And so you guys need to follow us. We're also we have a Political Matrix News Twitter account as well. Follow us on X and Facebook. We have been dormant on recently. We're going to get back on that. I think the Meta thing. Zuckerberg has a good PR person. I think he's coming up with some good answers to Congress to keep Meta going the way it is. And so he's actually saying he's helping children.
Not that.
I will say his security's tight on that. I mean, every single time I'm on Facebook, it asks me for a verification at least 3 times an hour.
Well, my problem is that every time every time you turn around, you wind up he'll go through and testify and tell people tell Congress that things are 100% factually. This is the way things are, and then like about a month later, we'll get some emails from some whistleblower inside Facebook that'll say, "No, this is what's actually happening," and they'll show conversations between him and the rest of his team where they're trying to construct this message that's absolutely false.
One thing he is doing, I am noticing, is that he is allowing the free speech of the right a lot more so than in the past. And as he has opened up the gates for right-wing media and right-wing conservative news and everything else on Facebook, a lot more than he did when we started. So that is a good part.
Maybe, because the wind's blowing to the right now. When the wind starts blowing to the left, you'll go the other way.
Hopefully the wind will just go right down the middle.
Well, that would be nice.
That would be nice. You guys have a good evening. Happy 420. 2.